Hello, I'm so excited. Welcome to the first Crossy's Corner of 2024. I'm Martin Cross, and with me I have the amazing Laila Youssifou. Hi there, Laila.
Hi, Martin.
And I say amazing because you have had a fantastic rowing career so far, and you're going to have an amazing rowing career, I think, in this year to come. But maybe to start with, you can just talk us through the season coming ahead for you, because I gather you've already been selected. Is that for the Olympics or for the World Cups?
It's actually, it said that the Olympic crews have been presented. So in that case, the Olympic crews are selected. And I'm still in the quad. So that was actually the boat I rode in at last World Championships. We'll actually continue with the same girls, same crew.
How excited were you about that, or was it just like you expected it? So nothing out of the ordinary.
To be really honest, I expected to remain in the quad for this season. I think at last World Championships we did good. We were quite close to gold, and in quite a short period of time. So I did expect to stay in the quad, and I also expected that it would be with the same girls. But still, if you're in the selection period, it's always kind of nerve-wracking because you want to be good and you want to show that you are at least as good as last year and preferably a bit better. So it's always something that is kind of exciting and kind of nerve-wracking at the same time.
I'm very pleased for you and very excited because I think it's great. It'll be your second Olympics, I know. Were there any surprises in the boats announced for the Dutch team? Perhaps you can give us a bit of an oversight, or was it mostly as expected?
I think for the women's crew, a lot of crews stayed the same actually compared to last World Championships. In the women's double, there's been a switch.
Yes. Is it Martine Veldhuis?
Yeah. So the lightweight, or former lightweight, we have to say now. She will be in the heavyweight women's double sculls
with Lisa Chaynard.
Lisa. Yeah.
That must be amazing. How on earth did Martine get a look in that double?
Well, I think Martine has always been a very good single sculler. But and also in previous years in the trials we did, she always actually also as a lightweight she was very fast in the single compared to the heavyweight women. So in that sense, I think we and the coaches already knew that she could race well in the single, and she has a great speed. But then we also had one trial session in the double, and Martina ended up in the double with Lisa, and then they just went very fast.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. Martina is a good friend of mine as well, so I really I'm really happy for her.
That's brilliant. And the season ahead is quite interesting because I think you're doing if memory serves, is it World Cup 1 and then you're going on training camp and not going to the Europeans?
Yeah, that's true. It's a shame not to be at the Europeans though, but we'll trust our coaches in the plan they've put out. But indeed, we're doing the first World Cup and the second one is in Lucerne, right?
In Lucerne, yeah.
So we're doing the first and the second one, and then that's it, and the Olympics.
Yeah. So that's your season mapped up for you. How are you feeling now? Just at this moment, I guess you're going to go on training camp soon somewhere.
Yeah, in 2 weeks we'll go to Portugal, to Lago Azul, which is a beautiful lake.
Wow.
Close to Lisbon, I think. And we'll go there for 2 weeks just to row a lot. No surprises. No surprises there. And I'm looking forward to it because right now, probably as in the UK, in the Netherlands, it's just quite cold and
It is. It's very
yeah,
cold, and you
yeah,
look nice, cozy, and warm there.
yeah. I'm wearing 2 sweaters.
Oh wow! I know because we were talking before we went on air.
Yeah,
I'm going to preface this and say you are a bit of a rowing star. In terms of if rowing can have any media stars, you've certainly been on the front cover of Row 360, a very striking photograph, I seem to recall. And you were telling me about a photo shoot that you and
yeah,
Rose de Jong have just done for Row
yeah,
360. So perhaps you can explain a little bit about that for us.
yeah. Yes, of course. Well, that's what I said to you right before the show. Like, I like yesterday evening, I got back from the UK because we were there for a very short trip, and we had a photo shoot for Row 360. So we had a shoot with Benedict Tufnell and a short interview with Tom Ransley, which was a lot of fun. We really had a lot of fun, yeah, it was fun because like when Rose and I were still rowing in the double. Yeah, we talked to Benedict every now and then when we ran into him at a competition or something. And then at one point he was like, yeah, I would really like to put you on the cover of Row 360 together. We could do a cool photo shoot in London. And I think it was just kind of a thing that he thought of, but I don't know how serious he really was at that time.
Yeah.
But we were very excited about this, so we kept on stalking him and sending him messages like, "This is going to happen because we really want. We're really excited for it." And then recently he was like, "Yeah, okay, let's make it happen. Can you come to London and at the mid of January?" So we did.
So, are you wearing rowing kit or just normal clothes? Because I know he does some interesting photographs. So.
Yeah, he does interesting photographs, and I'm not allowed to tell you what we're wearing yet, but it will be something new, something crazy, something a bit. Yeah, it's not rowing. It's not rowing
Okay,
clothes, not at all.
right. I'm very
I
excited.
can't tell you yet.
Okay, I'm very excited. So I know you and Rose, because you were in the double, have a bit of a special relationship. Maybe you can kind of explain that, because I would have thought, oh, Ben lost the whole like Dutch women's quad over to London. And I guess Tessa, is it Tessa Dullemans and Benta, that they would have thought, oh yeah, we'll have that trip too.
Yeah.
So why is it just you two?
Well, I think in this case it was because it was something that Ben told us, or Ben asked us about when we were still in the double. Yeah. So I think in that sense, that's why it happened this way. And more in general, yeah, I mean, me and Rose have been rowing together for quite a while now. At the Tokyo Olympics, we were not in the crew together, but we did my first under 23 World Championships. I also rowed together with Rose in the double, which was back in 2014.
Yeah,
10 years ago already. And then we rowed in the double together, and then yeah, our paths went kind of a bit of different ways. But then after the Tokyo Olympics, we were put back together in the double, and I feel like we just really clicked, and we still do. I feel like part of our strong connection is just that we are both. I think we're good at being quite strict at ourselves. So, and I think with that we recognize that in each other, and that we appreciate that in each other, and also at the same time that we can sometimes help each other to step back a bit, or just to also be a bit more kind to yourself sometimes, because we're quite strict on ourselves. But yeah, I feel like that's a good match, and that was a good match in the double, and it's still a good match. But now, of course, we have 2 other crewmates as well, who we are getting to know better as crewmates at the moment. But yeah, I'm excited for their journey.
That's very interesting. So, do you two share rooms together, and Tessa and Benta share a room together? Have you not split yourselves up yet?
Up until now, it has been like that. Yeah. I think that might also be, yeah. I mean, Rose and I are very familiar with each other, and so are Benta and Tessa. Benta and Tessa also have Rose together for quite a while, also under 23 experience together. So they know each other also very well. And which is like a practical reason, Rose and I tend to go to bed quite late for rowers.
You're joking. What time are we talking about?
Well, we try to sleep. We always try to sleep at midnight, but it would be better if we go to bed like at 11 or maybe at even at 10. But I never go to bed at 10. I sometimes go to bed at 11, and then I'm very proud of myself.
Wow.
But and I think Benta and Tessa are more early sleepers, more morning people, and we're more like evening people.
So I have to ask, I'm very interested, like, what are you playing? PlayStation? Are you watching TV or films? Are you reading? Are you just doing meditation? What are you doing, like, as it gets close to midnight, or 10?
What I'm doing at that moment, I'm definitely not playing PlayStation. Never have. I also wonder what I'm doing at those times sometimes, because I feel like time flies when it's later in the evening. I don't know. I feel like I'm just doing all sorts of unrelated stuff, also some unnecessary stuff. I start to clean up my house, or I start to it's just not really something that is necessary to do. Sometimes I read. I like to read in the evening, just to clear my mind and to get some rest. But I don't know, time flies.
That's very interesting. Now, I kind of want to take you back to last year's race at the World Championships. You've obviously had a bit of distance. You've talked about it a lot as a crew with your coach. And as you look back on it now, it was an amazing race, and you can tell us about it. What are your thoughts about the race and your performance in it?
I think that as a crew, we can be very proud of what we did at the World Championships. I myself find it difficult to really say that I'm satisfied by the result.
Why?
Because I think that being this, if you're this close to gold, and if you feel like you're in shape to win a gold medal, and the other ones in your crew are as well, then it kind of feels like missing out on gold instead of winning silver.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So really, like, saying that I'm really happy with the result, or that I'm really satisfied by the result, would not be completely true. But I do think that the race really was everything we were able to do at that moment. We had a rough time, like switching to this squad. Because it was quite an emotional ride, and I feel like we were not really performing as a crew yet, but more as 4 individuals who really wanted the best.
Yes.
But we were not really like connected with each other in that sense. So I feel like the silver was probably what we could do at that moment. But I still feel like there's a lot to improve. There's a lot that has to be better.
So you may not want to talk about this at all. I was just fascinated when you said it was quite an emotional ride. How
Mhm.
much can you tell us about why that was so?
I think that was the case because we all came from quite different places.
Hmm.
Rose and I were, of course, in the double, and we have been in the double for at that point like 1.5 years, and we really liked that. We really
Mm.
liked our process and how it felt like we're in charge of our own process, which might I think is easier to feel in a smaller boat,
Yeah.
because like yeah, as an individual you're half of a double, and in a quad you're only a quarter. But we really like that process, and I don't know if we really see it, if we really saw it coming. So that made the shock quite
Yeah.
real, just to switch. And yeah, that was our part of the story in a nutshell.
Hmm.
And then Tessa has been in the quad for like um, the whole
Yeah. Yeah.
Olympiad so far. But at the Europeans, for example, she was in a quad with 3 other people. Um, so for her, she had to switch crews a lot. Well, I think she's a person that really values like
Stability.
yes, maybe stability, but also like a strong connection to your crewmates, and
Hmm.
that's of course difficult to develop if you switch a lot.
Yeah.
And then Bente, she had also quite a roller coaster as a season, because she had kind of like I don't really know what term to use, but she's kind of like a burnout or like overtraining, or at
Ah,
least like
wow.
yeah, she had a really tough winter in which she wasn't able to perform as well as she could, or as good
Mm.
as she actually is. So yeah, that's something that makes you insecure, of course.
Yes,
And
of course.
then these four individuals were like put in a boat together, and it was like, okay, good luck. You have 3 months, and then you have to qualify for the Olympics. And we were all we were kind of blown away. And I also think that because we were quite emotional, weren't really able to talk to each other about it properly
Hmm.
up until the World Championships, um, which, like in hindsight, we should have done that earlier.
Mm.
We should have just confronted each other with our our emotions and our
Mm.
feelings, and just yeah, get it off our chests. But we didn't really do that, so it was, yeah, I think especially because of that, it was quite a struggle. But after the World Championships, we had like a month of rest, and then when we got back together, we we felt like, okay, we need to start talking, and we also need to start talking about what happened up until the World Championships. And now I really feel like, yeah, we're really developing a bond as a crew, and I also feel very relieved because, um, yeah, I said what was on my mind, and I feel like the
Hmm.
other girls also said what was on their mind. So yeah, I feel like we're on the good track.
So that's fascinating. It's Freak that coaches you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how much was that openness crew led, or how much was it coach led, or was it a mixture of both?
I feel like the openness was quite crew-led, actually.
Hmm.
I feel like, and I also know that Freek, Freek or Freak, as you say.
Oh, sorry, I Freck. I always forget
Like-
how to pronounce his name correctly.
it's like the English word for break,
Yeah,
take a
break,
break,
Freak,
but
Freak.
then
Yeah,
Freek.
thank you.
Yeah.
I will use that properly this season.
No problem. But I feel like Freek also sometimes has, or finds it difficult to really like, um, yeah, talk about the elephant in the room, which is difficult. And I feel like, yeah, the four of us are quite, yeah, we have quite different personalities. And
Mm.
some people, then I actually mainly might be talking about myself. I I do not really have difficulties like to speak my mind or to confront people,
Hmm.
and I think the other 3 girls are more like they want to um, they want to have like a good atmosphere. And of course,
Yeah,
I like to have a good atmosphere as
yeah,
well, but not at the cost of not speaking my mind. So that kind of that's kind of difficult. And I think also Freek also is a person that prefers a good atmosphere.
yeah. I can
So
imagine.
in that sense, it's difficult to to really open up. But I feel like we have been doing that, and we should definitely keep on doing that, because
Mm.
the coming year will not be will not be an easy one.
I guess it must have been interesting because you had that fantastic result in Lucerne where you beat the British. I know they had one woman missing,
Mhm.
Layla Anderson, and you also beat the Chinese. So um, although things must have been challenging, I don't know that maybe that result made you feel okay. This is working now, and maybe we don't need to necessarily do things like talk about stuff.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It really felt like when we were just put in the boat together, because we've never rowed before that. We've never rowed together as a quad. I really was like, well, the coaches must be out of their minds. Like, we don't know if this works, and now we're going to risk it all, and we're going to sacrifice, or that was what
Yeah,
it felt
yeah,
like
yeah,
for me. We're going to sacrifice a double I really like to row in for something that, for like, it felt a bit like taking a gamble.
yeah, yeah.
And then in Lucerne, so we were like at the start, like, yeah, we don't have a clue. We don't know what will happen. We really don't know. And then we suddenly beat the Olympic champions, so the Chinese,
Mm.
and also the British crew, which is a very good crew. Also with the other girl in it was a very good crew, and still is. So we were kind of mind blown, and and it also gave us a sense like, okay, we're on the right track. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe we're on the right track, so we don't have to talk. It's fine.
Um, with that close race you had with the British in the World Championships in Belgrade, um, give us a sense of what it was like to be in the middle of that race. Like, what's going on for you? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? Because you and the British were going literally the expression bow ball to bow ball. I mean,
Yeah.
it was you couldn't separate you. How was it to be in a contest like that?
I think it was the coolest race I've ever been in.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, in in Dutch you have a saying. I don't know if it's something you say in English, but like, the crowd is the winner.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, of course the British crew won, but in the end it was a spectacle to watch, that was really cool. I mean, I feel like um, performing your sport at the highest level should feel like this. It should be bubble to bubble,
mm,
because yeah, I mean, everyone's a good athlete, and everyone wants it. So that was really cool. Um, I find it difficult to really describe the race, because I was kind of
bubble.
in a strange bubble, or in a tunnel, or I don't know how you'd call it. Um, and normally I experience races very clearly, actually, and I'm always the one who's like
Ah,
looking from side to side, even though I shouldn't, I know, but I'm always looking everywhere, and I really know what's happening. But in this race, I I I did not really know where we were. I just know that I wanted to push away from
yeah,
the British at the times that we were in front, and that I really was fighting to be in front again at the times we were behind them. And I do remember the feeling that they were slipping away in the last bit, which was like, I think at the 1850 or
yeah,
something. I
yeah.
don't know. 1900 maybe. It was close to the finish
Late.
line, but then like, yeah, I do remember that, and that was, that's a disappointing feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I only quite recently I was able to watch the race back, because
Oh, right.
I just couldn't stand watching it.
Yeah.
But I did, and it was a really cool race.
Um, I want to talk about the other races that you've had and look at earlier championships. But one thing that occurred to me is you obviously experienced the system under one chief coach in terms of going up to the Tokyo Olympics, and now you're with a different chief coach. So Josi and then Josi Vidonshot and Ilko.
Hmm.
Um, what could you say to people about what's different in the approach from one guy running things to another person? How is it different? How do you experience things differently?
Mm,
um
well, I feel like one of the main changes and something that you really experience every day is that we now train with the men and the women together.
mhm,
Um, so before Tokyo, you really had like just separate, almost separate rowing teams. It felt like at times, and especially during COVID, everyone was of course like really frightened to be in contact with someone outside their bubble. So it
mm,
really felt like separate rowing teams up until Tokyo. So then we were training together with the sweep and the sculling women. But for the men's team, there also was kind of a
mm,
separation between the sweep rowing man and the sculling man. So it really were like three completely different rowing teams back then. And now we're training all together, and that's something that I really enjoy,
okay.
because
Why?
I feel like, well, men and women in general, they can learn from each other.
Yeah.
I feel like a big difference that it has brought, or that a big difference that I see is that I feel like the men are able to sometimes um, like make a joke about something or be a bit less serious.
Yeah.
While I experienced that the Tokyo group of women that we were training with, I really liked the group of women, but we were sometimes very, very, very serious. And
Ah.
um, the men are really good at just like putting in a joke or making fun of
Mm,
someone or themselves, and that really gives a good atmosphere. And the other way around, I also think that the men can learn from us because, or that's of course what I have to hear from them. But they said that
yeah.
when they were at training camp, that at the end of the training camp, it really became like macho culture, and
Yeah.
everyone was just like saying stuff to drag each other down. And right now, and where we're at a training camp, it's just more like everyone does their own thing, but everyone
Mm,
respects what
mm.
the others do. So it's a bit less of a macho culture. So I think that's something that the women can add.
That's lovely.
Um, yeah, it's good, and it's really nice.
Could
Um,
I could I ask you, and you might not want to say, who's funny in the men's team?
oh, I do think that is a matter of taste.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think that everyone would agree with me. Who is funny? Oh, let's see. I find Guus quite
Ah.
funny.
Yeah.
I find Jacob quite funny.
Mhm.
Melvin, he's a
Yeah.
funny guy. And Fossey, of course. He's not really in the men's team,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's
yeah,
a coach. But I think that he's a very funny guy. And
yeah.
I also like when they're goofing around a bit. I don't know. I can be really entertained by that, and I think that's an addition to the team.
That's lovely. And
Yeah.
maybe you can say how much adaptation, how easy or challenging was it to adapt from the sort of training you were doing with Yosi to the kinds of training that you're doing under Ilko?
I thought it would be very difficult to adapt because in Yosi's schedule we did a lot of like threshold training
Mm,
sessions, so it was more on strength and sprints and stuff like that. And this training schedule is way more endurance oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I thought it would take me ages to really adapt to that, but it didn't actually. The adaptation went quite fast, and I also feel like that something that helps is that right now we have like a couple of physiologists
Mm-hmm.
that really focus on how you are physically performing. So it's their job to look at your heart rates and
Mm.
at your training and your heart rate zones and at your training intensities and stuff like that. So in that sense, that's a proper addition, I think, to the team, because they really focus on
Mm.
how you can adapt as fast as you can, and also how you can perform as well. So it's kind of individualized,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the essence of uh, yeah
How
of
much
training.
how much confidence does that give you as an athlete that you've got this close association with the physiologists?
Mm, it gives confidence because you learn to know what is good for you as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and of course that can be something completely different than what is good for a teammate. But at the same time, I sometimes find it difficult, the individual training adaptations, because if you see someone that is like that is told to do a training of 2.5 hours, and you only get like 2 hour training, then you can also start to doubt, like, okay, am I doing enough? Am I working hard enough? Or do they just feel sorry for me or something like
Yeah,
that? So it gives confidence that there's someone really looking out for you, but at the same time, like, doing something different than your teammates sometimes also makes you kind of insecure.
yeah. What's the longest distance that you've done on a training session? Maybe in a single or something like that.
Um, the longest session I have done is 30 kilometers.
And how was that? Did you enjoy it? Was it like, oh my god, when's this going to end? Or
Well, if you have 30 kilometers, then you can go like through all kinds of thoughts. So I think that there were periods in that training that I really liked it, and there were periods I was like, "What am I doing?" So I think
oh
I
yeah,
went through all kinds of emotions, but in the end, um, I think we're kind of used to rowing long distances right now.
hmm
Like a training of 1.5 hour really feels like yeah, you're almost celebrating if you only have to row like for 1.5 hour, because it feels like a short training now. So you adapt quite quickly to new standards.
yeah. Um, what do you like? I know the Dutch team use RP3s extensively to test. What do you like on an ergo? How strong are you?
Um, I am in the top part of the women's erg
Ah,
tests, to say so.
yeah,
So yeah, we recently did a 2K on the RP3s,
yeah.
which was part of our trials in December.
Okay.
And what did I do? I think 6 minutes and 28 or 27 seconds.
Wow,
So like
that's
six and a half, just below the 6.5 minutes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that sounds really impressive. I know I'm trying to relate to it to the concept too.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult, and I don't really know how to translate it. I know that my PB on the concept was 6:36, but
Wow.
that was 4 years ago or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. So it might be comparable, but I don't really know. And I think also maybe body weight um, um, adds, or I don't know, is a important factor. But I don't know if weighing more is in your
Yeah.
advantage on RP3 or not. But I cannot really say.
That's really interesting. One thing, so I don't know how you would feel about this, and I kind of feel slightly awkward asking you. But rowing is a sport where there aren't many. I'm choosing my words carefully. People of color. Um, I remember obviously, and you will remember from Tokyo, Carlotta Nurdaje
Hmm.
from the German women's quad. Um, but we don't have many women of color. Um, is that something you think about at all, or is how relevant is it, or how do you see yourself in that context?
Mm, of course, I get this question more often,
Yeah,
and I actually, what I well, I'd like to put it this way. I'm not really, yeah, I don't really look at people that way, or not.
yeah,
I don't mean that you do, but like my mom is Dutch and my dad is Ghanaian.
hmm,
So my mom is white and my dad is black, and I to be honest, I don't really care about which word you use for that. So yeah, I actually I'm not really um, yeah, looking at it that way, and I don't really, yeah, I don't really see myself as someone of color or someone that is not, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah,
I just see myself as being me, but I do, of course, I do understand that it's something that stands out. But I think that actually that's a sign of a more bigger, yeah, like something broader in
yeah,
the world. Like at least in the Netherlands, rowing is just a very elite sports. Like
yeah,
everyone, it's really like a student, so university student sport.
hmm,
And in general, if you look around at universities, it's just there aren't many people of color. So I think like in that sense, it's a representation of how the university world looks, at least in the Netherlands. But I feel like that's um, uh, yeah, around the world. Like rowing is a very expensive sport to do. You
yes.
need boats, you need oars, you need maintenance, you need a lot of stuff. Like it's much more expensive than just kicking a football or something like that. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of a you could maybe say that's kind of a symptom of a larger problem in the world in
Yeah,
that sense.
I love that actually. And I was thinking your dad being a Ghanaian, he would have been, I don't know if he follows football, but Ghana are playing in the AFCON, the Africa Cup of Nations,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
lost the Cape Verde Islands in their first
Oh,
game.
terrible.
Uh, just yesterday, I think. Bill, who's watching, hi Bill, thank
Oh,
you very much for posting this. So he liked very much what you were saying, and that's his answer. So that might help us, I think.
ah, heavy person has more of an advantage on the static concept. Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'll
Hmm,
take that.
nice. Thank you, Bill.
Um, so want to talk about 2022 because
Yeah,
you doubled up. I know at the World Championships. I can't remember if you doubled up at the Europeans. I think you might have done actually
yeah, we
in
did.
Munich.
Yeah, we did.
So I kind of want to frame this around, choosing to double up or not, and also to take a look at the women's eight as an event because you've won a fantastic silver medal in the World Championships in 2022, but you decided not to do that, go that down that route in 2023, and the women's eight had hardly any contestants in the following season. um, I guess one reason because there wasn't a women's eight from the Netherlands. So maybe talk about what it was like for that season, doubling up in the women's eight, and your thoughts on the women's eight as an event. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, doubling up, I really liked it. I was really enthusiastic about the idea. It actually was Ilko's idea, so our head coach.
Ah.
We weren't actually thinking about it ourselves. It's not a regular thing to do in the Netherlands. Well, it's actually not really a regular thing to do in rowing, but
Hmm.
also in the Netherlands, I don't know if it happened a lot, but Ilko, it was Ilko's idea, and actually when he mentioned it, a lot of people were very enthusiastic. Also,
Ah.
some people, of course, were a bit frightened, like, "Ooh, how am I going to manage racing two events actually?"
Hmm.
But I was one of the people that was like cheering from the beginning because I was just really curious actually, because it feels like we're so fit, we're so trained, we put in all of these hours for only like 6 minutes.
Hmm.
So it feels, for to me, it kind of felt like, yeah, you can get more out of this, and I felt like it was possible. And then of course, yeah, we showed that it was possible up to some extent.
Hmm.
It was at the Europeans, we were just really, really tired. We
Yeah.
weren't focusing on the Europeans in 2022 at all. So that was difficult to row in your own boat class, and then also in the eight. But yeah, we still managed to get a bronze medal,
Mm.
which was cool. And then at the World Championships, it was even more crazy because Rose and I had to row like both the double final and the eight final
You
within.
had an hour, didn't you?
Yeah, we had an hour in between or something like that. And at first the coaches said to us that if we won a medal in the double, that we weren't allowed to step on the stage
Oh,
because
really?
we had to get ready for the eight. And then we were like, okay, we're sorry, but if we win a medal, we're going to celebrate it at that moment, because how many times in your life do you win a medal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then they were like, okay, you're allowed to, but only if you do not do any crazy things, and if afterwards you directly go to the eight. So we did, and it was so cool. The energy with which all of the girls were in the eight at the World Championships in 2023 was like, I've never seen anything like that, because everyone in that crew had a medal, had already won a World Championships medal,
Mhm.
and then we just had like the opportunity to do it once again. So the energy was really, really good, and I really liked it. And then this year the coaches asked us what we wanted to do or how we felt, and then a lot of people actually were still quite enthusiastic about it, but
Mhm.
then they also pointed out that all of the crews at the 2022 World Championships won silver. So we had twice. Yeah, everyone had silver twice, but no
Ah.
one, no one in that eight had gold. And then they were like, okay, but we do feel like we have to focus,
Mm.
and we want to focus on winning gold. So we prefer one-time gold over two-time silver, which was it was kind of, yeah. I feel like it's sad that we do not double up, but I do find the point very valid.
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on women's eights? On I don't know. Viability is too strong a word, but
Yeah,
what?
I
Yeah.
understand what you mean.
Okay.
Well, I it's funny because I recently had a conversation with Rose about this, and she actually has quite a good idea. It's not my
Okay.
idea. I have to give her credits for this, but she has like a fun idea that actually it would be cool if the women's aid would only be a doubling up option,
Yeah. Great
so that
idea.
actually
Yeah.
thumbs up. So that actually, like, the best athletes from the other crews that are already racing would also start in the eight. I mean, I think that we as the Netherlands showed that it's possible,
Mm.
that it can still be really tight racing if you do that. Um, and I think, yeah, it might, it might increase the level of the women's aid racing.
Mhm.
Or we would just have to promote rowing for women worldwide better, because I feel like, men's 8 racing it's very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really cool to watch. But that's also because there are just a lot of good rowing. I think there might be more good rowing men right now in the world than women. So yeah, you could choose
Mhm.
where you would want to
Mhm.
improve on this. But maybe for now or for the next coming years, it would be cool if it would be a doubling up boat class.
I want to take you back to 2019 because you were in a single scull there. And I think it was an amazing achievement in that you actually qualified that boat for the Olympic regatta.
Yeah.
In the B final there, you were behind the Chinese, but you beat Magdalena Lobnig, who ended up, I think, as a bronze medalist, and Phoebe Eriksson, who was, of course, a silver medalist in London. So tell us a little bit about that race and what you feel about it.
Well, it's now you mention it. It might have felt a bit similar to my World Championships this year,
Ah,
because well, okay, that in the single it was actually even more extreme because I was put in the single for the 2019 World Championships 5 weeks before the World Championships,
no.
and I have been rowing. I had been rowing that season in an 8 and in a double, I was just put in every single boat. So I had seen everything that season except for the single, and that was the boat I had to race. So I was completely stressed out, to be honest. I was like, oh my god, I can never do this. I only have 5 weeks. I remember that my first competitive training after I heard that I had to race the single at the 2019 World Championships, I couldn't get my rating up above 30. And I was like crying. I was just completely angry at Josie at that time. And I was like, what are you doing to me? I
Yeah.
cannot do this. I did what you told me to do, and now you're giving me this. But he was like, okay, I think you can manage. You have to get good coaching. I was coached then by Isabelle Jacobs,
Oh, yes.
who and she and I are we get along very well, and she's a very good coach as well.
Hmm.
So she just really coached me like intensely for 5 weeks, and then I managed. It was really cool. That was my coolest race actually ever
Oh, yeah.
before the race
Yeah.
in the quad at last World Championships, because all of that tournament I had a really good start. I remembered that like in my semi I was laying next to Emma Twigg, and I was like, oh my god, she's a legend, and I was 22 back then or something like that. But in my start, we were kind of getting along, and then
Ah,
of course then she got away. But my start was very good, like all of the tournament, and
mm.
then I was in the B final, and I knew I had to row like top 3 to get an Olympic spot, and my start just went terribly wrong, and I was all behind the field. I was in
No.
sixth or in fifth position, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was this point at I think it was at the 600 meters, and I was like, I actually have to start sprinting now because otherwise I will lose my qualification. And of course, you cannot really sprint at the 600 and
Yeah.
still make it
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
finish. But I do remember like this mental switch, like
Hmm.
if I really want it, I have to put in everything right now. And you can also see that in the video, which is quite funny. And then I managed. It was really cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, the Olympics were delayed. That the whole COVID happened, and then you ended up being in Tokyo in a quad. So, what was that whole experience like for you?
Mm, I feel like I have kind of mixed feelings about Tokyo.
Yeah.
The quad I was in back then, Yeah, it was like the priority boat of the actually of the women's rowing at that point,
Oh, really?
at least of the women's sculling.
Golly.
And we also we managed to become European champion in that boat twice.
Hmm.
So we really felt like, okay, we can go to Tokyo and we can really fight for a medal there. But then, yeah, that didn't happen. I mean, we were just not rowing good enough in the final, and then we ended up in a sixth place, I think.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
came
sixth place.
six.
Yeah, and that was
How does that happen?
I up until today. I don't really know, or I cannot really mention like
Mm,
one thing that went wrong. I just think that um, it was difficult for us as a crew to continue for a year longer. The
hmm.
other girls in my crew were they really saw Tokyo as their last stage of their rowing career,
Ah,
and then they had
yeah,
to they had to continue their sports career for one more year. So I can imagine that must have been difficult for them. But yeah, I don't really know. The water was difficult in the final. I
it
think we
was,
were
wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really difficult. I think we were a crew that was better with like flat water. You have some crews that are very handy and can really can row really well in difficult water. I think we were not one of those crews. Um, yeah, both of our coaches had COVID, which was not really
Ideal.
an ideal situation. But I don't really know. I'm not really the type of person that really likes to find excuses or reasons
Yeah,
why
yeah.
it didn't happen. It just wasn't good enough at the moment, which was painful. But yeah, I learned a lot from rowing with those girls, and I had a really fun time with them as well.
Um, Thank you for that. That's very interesting. How much did that experience detract from your experience of being a first-time Olympian? And I know you had to, leave quite soon after your event and so on, and all the precautions over COVID. How much did that detract from that?
Yeah, I think it detracted a lot. I remembered that there was one moment at the Olympics, and I was calling my mother, and I was crying like, okay, this was supposed to be the event I've been working on or I've been working on to go to for my whole life, and
Mm,
I just feel I'm stuck in my room, and I feel like I can only uh, do something wrong,
hmm.
like so that was it was kind of it was a strange experience. It wasn't the experience I expected. At the same time, I did really enjoy being in the Olympic village, and
Hmm.
like stuff like eating in the dining hall, which is like
Yeah.
huge, and seeing all kinds of sportsmen and women that you usually only see on
Mm,
television. I did enjoy those parts, but like yeah the
yeah.
experience as a whole wasn't the way it was supposed to be.
And of course, one of the women coaching there was Michelle Darville, who coached the Canadian eight. How much do you have to do with Michelle, or how much input does she have to you and what you're
um
doing now?
at this moment, she's not our direct coach, so in
Hmm.
that sense, we do not really have to do have a lot to do with each other.
Hmm.
But yeah, she is always at the training center. So if I need her, if I want to tell her anything, I can always come to her. And I think that behind the scenes, that she and Freek talk to each other quite regularly, and
Yeah.
also talk about the crews that like each other's crews, that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
do not
Yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
but the crews that the other coach coaches. So I think that behind the scenes, she and Freek actually have quite a lot to say also about our quad. But
Yeah.
like in general, in the daily rowing, I do not really speak to her that often.
Um, I want to ask you a little bit about Benta because I'm very conscious of one of the things I say in commentary is, it's Ilsa's little sister. And I don't know if that is frustrating for her, if that's, she doesn't like to be known as, has she come out of the shadow of her big sister? How is Benta with having, an Olympic champion sister, and what does that do for her?
Well, I don't know if I can really answer this for her. If you really want, if
Yeah,
you want a
yeah,
if you want a proper answer, you should of course ask
yeah,
herself. But
yeah, that's true.
we have been talking about this at a time, and she does says like at the one at the one hand, of course, she's very proud of her sister, and it's very cool to have like an example and someone you can go to if you have any if you have difficulties in your rowing career.
Hmm.
At the same time, like she's a person on her own, of course.
Yeah.
So she is also like, yeah, I I want to be known for who I am because
Hmm.
I'm an individual. So I think yeah, she kind of has mixed feelings about it, but I feel like also she's performing quite well in rowing. So
Yeah.
I also feel like she deserves it just to be mentioned on her own.
Yeah, I'm going to stop using that little sister after
I
listening to
don't
that.
know if that's really what she wants, but
Uh,
you should ask her. This is what I think that she thinks.
yeah, amazing results on the Dutch team. I mean, certainly deciding not to double up, and the women in the pair beating the Australians, who I thought might win that race, and the women's four. Wow, what a race that was! And then your fantastic contest and coming away with a silver. How did it feel to be part of a Dutch team on the crest of a wave?
It's yeah, it's kind of overwhelming, and at the same time I feel like we're just like as I mentioned earlier, like adapting to a different training schedule. You also adapt very quickly to different standards with
Hmm.
respect to results. So it's it's on the one hand it's very cool because of course you yeah, most of the time people from outside, external people, they ask like, wow, the team is performing so well, and what's it like to be part of that? Well, but within the team, um, it feels like it's only gold that counts, and silver is also kind of already kind of devaluated, and
Yeah,
not
yeah,
making it
yeah.
to the stage is almost something that is that you cannot think of. So it's kind of strange,
Mm,
and I do feel like, yeah, it's very inspiring because there are just a lot of world championships at at our training center right now. And at the same time, I'm a very result oriented person.
uh-huh.
Um, so I'm really sensitive to things like it's only gold counts. So then I really tell myself that silver isn't a good result at all. But at sometimes I really try to tell myself like, okay, if you put it in perspective, a silver medal at a world championships is a really extraordinary experience, because sometimes you almost forget that if a lot of your teammates have won gold. So it's kind of it has two sides,
Mm.
but I feel like in general it's very cool and it's very inspiring to be a part of.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Chinese women because you mentioned like they were Olympic champions, and of
Mm.
course they didn't medal. Did they medal in Lucerne? Did they come fourth?
No, the Swiss
Th-
girls became
yeah,
third.
yeah. So the Chinese missed a medal in Lucerne. How much do you think they were underperforming this year as a crew? It's hard to answer, isn't it? That question.
It's really hard to answer, but I always I assume that they were underperforming
Yeah.
because I feel like I always try to only control the things that you have power over, which is like your own
Mm,
training and your own yeah, the progression of yourself and your own crew.
yeah.
And you don't know what your competition will do. So if you assume that they will be even better than last year, then
Yeah, yeah.
then you have to work hard. I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't have any insight on what the Chinese
Mm,
rowing team does. And I haven't actually talked to those girls as well. So I have no clue, but
mm.
I assume that they will be underperforming and that they will be very fast again
Yeah, yeah.
next year. Yeah.
I think that's a good assumption to make. One of the things I've got next to your name is civil engineer.
Kind of true.
Could you talk to
I
me
did a
about that?
I did a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. Yeah, but
Ah,
right now I'm doing a master's degree in technology and policy management.
oh, what does that mean?
Um, I most of the time explain it as a combination between regular policy management
Yeah.
and data science. So
Ah,
kind of making making the connection between those two.
how can you do that and train?
It's difficult. So yeah, I have been progressing with my study, but just very very slowly. But I try to combine it in the we have some weeks that in which we train less, and then I try to study more, and then the weeks that we study more, I or the weeks that we train more, I study less.
Mm,
And it's I've always been in quite close contact with my professors just to try to explain the situation, but most of them are quite understanding,
hmm.
fortunately. So that's good. And right now, I still have my master thesis to finish.
Okay.
So I'm working on that right now, and I will up until February, and then I'll put in a study break up until the Olympics,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then I hope to be done studying at the end of 2024.
Good. This is a ridiculous question to ask you, but I'm going to ask it anyway, um, because there's so much water to flow under the bridge. The 28 Olympics are in Los Angeles, and for someone who's good off the start, which we've talked about already, it's only 1,500 meters. Um, have what thoughts have you had about that?
Actually, my thoughts at this moment are that I will not be joining the Los Angeles Olympic
Okay.
Games. I feel like I really want to put my best rowing out in Paris, and I'm still not sure, but I don't think that I will continue rowing afterwards.
Hmm.
Um, because I've been doing this for such a long time. Of course, there are people who have done it for way longer, but I
Mm,
also feel like being in sports and being in rowing is very cool because you get to optimize what you do. At the other hand, it's really like it's a life that's really focused on yourself.
mm,
And I also feel like you miss out on stuff, and
mm.
sometimes you really want to be there for your friends, but you're somewhere else. You're on training camp or at a competition like for half of the year. So I do really feel like it's a very cool, and it's a very cool life to live, and it's a privilege to be able to row at this
Mm,
level. But I do also feel like there comes a time when I have to
mm,
close this chapter, and I have to get I have to get on with a more normal life.
mm. I love that answer. It was great. Um, have your family, your mum and dad, brother, have they? What's the ticket situation for Paris?
The ticket situation is quite complicated, but as members of the Dutch team, we get 2 tickets for
Mm,
each competition that we row. So each race we row.
mm.
So I at least have 2 tickets. But at the same time, I thought that the ticket site right now you can just buy tickets
Oh,
for
can you?
all the. Yeah, I thought so. Is that new for you?
Oh well, yeah, I didn't know that.
You'll
I
be there
will.
anyway.
I will. Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be doing some commentary there, so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of my close friends and family have tickets right now.
mm,
So I think that'll be okay, and that I don't know. I'm just really looking forward to finally experiencing an
mm,
Olympic Games where all the people you love are there with
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
to celebrate or to support you, whichever it may be.
yeah. That's going to be great. I was going to kind of finish with that, but I just wanted to ask you something. One of the things I love around the sport is particularly when the Dutch win, that everybody jumps in the water and swims out to the boat. And then it happened at the European Championships when Melvin beat Ollie Zeidler and Tuskus.
Yeah.
And then everyone said, "Oh, health and safety," and then it didn't seem to happen anymore. Have people been told not to do it, or what's?
Yes, people have been told not to do it, and we're very bummed out by that because it's really cool, and we love it, and I feel like a lot of other people love it. But
Mm,
of course, it's an international competition, but it also gives something extra to it, or at least that's how we feel about it, and y- you might you might feel
mm,
about it that way as well. But yeah, we have been told not to. I even thought that it's been put into quite strong words because I believe that at the World Championships, someone mentioned that if the Dutch would jump into the water again, the crews would be disqualified.
no,
So yeah,
that's
I think
crazy.
I heard that, but it might have been a rumor. I don't know.
Yeah,
At least it worked because we did not want to be disqualified, so nobody jumped into the water.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, if stuff like that goes around, then traditions like these vanish quite quickly.
Yeah. Um, well, Layla, I mean, it's been an amazing, such energy in the interview that you put across,
Thank you.
and talking about emotions and feelings. It's been wonderful experience, and we've been talking for over an hour now.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to sort of mention?
I think we've talked about quite a lot. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we have. I could go on talking for ages, but
Yeah.
I'm
Let's not
con-
put your listeners through that.
yeah. So we'll end the live part of this interview
Yeah.
now. But Laila Youssifou, thank you ever so much. You've been amazing.
Thank you for having me.